How was life in the 1960s?
Well, the things that I do remember is at a very young age of 3, I think I saw John F. Kennedy's funeral on TV. Uh, I remember the record player and the records. Don't remember anything else about it. I don't know what it is. I'm exactly how I'm supposed to answer that. Uh,
Okay, what?
there was a Vietnam War. I knew little of it.
Oh,
I just knew that it was when it was over. That was a big thing that it was over. But I just remember seeing TV all the time, every night, and watching the Vietnam War, and didn't know what they were fighting about. Didn't know that many people were getting killed. I remember seeing Nixon being impeached, and that was interesting because I had never seen a grown man cry before.
so how like you were? Did you just how old were you when you saw Nixon cry?
I think I was 12. I think I don't know.
Did you
And
ever?
then the first man walked on the moon during my time.
Were you excited about that?
Nobody told me to be excited because my mom didn't didn't appreciate that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just knew it was important. As I just I don't know, it's kind of strange. But yeah, I was glad I got to see it on TV. It's one of my few memories.
And oh, how was it after the 1960s? Was it like a big transition into the
70s.
70s, or was it
Well,
a
in the
rapid
70s I was
transition?
in my I was a teenager. It sucked.
Oh,
But I was just being a teenager, but I just remember the music. I remember there was a lot of drugs then. I do remember that. The family element was into drugs. Um, Heroin, going to prison, them going to prison. I just remember a lot of stuff.
oh, did you ever see what's it called? What was the main drug at that time, or how
Heroin.
heroin?
I remember seeing an uncle go to the sink and pull out the syringe, and over the sink he wrapped his arm with that rubber band around his arm and inserted it into his arm, and I was going, "What's that?" He goes, "It's just candy. You need to go away. It's candy that's not good for little kids." I remember that.
Hmm.
And I always know, I don't know how come I always knew that drugs were bad. I just didn't know that was a drug at the time.
So did you ever were you ever like actually did you ever try heroin, or
No, no.
or did you
No,
ever come in contact with it, at least touch a syringe or something?
no.
Wow. And okay, was at this time, was it like the AIDS epidemic where everybody had AIDS and things like that and
AIDS
sexual?
was in the 80s.
Oh,
80s. I think one of my cousins was one of the first victims. So back then, when we first discovered about AIDS, people would freak out if they touched you and you had AIDS because they thought you were going to get it. They were going to get it. And I had a coworker in the 90s that did get it, and another coworker wouldn't even talk to him because it was still on the unknown stage. They had just said, no, it's not going to be contagious if you touch, only if you bleed and touch each other. One cut to another cut, but she still didn't believe it was true. So she outcasted him from her life, and they used to be really close friends. And that was in the 90s.
wow. How
Uh,
how did you react to the AIDS? Did you also do that, or did you like
no,
talk to them?
I don't know. No, that doesn't bother me. Uh, and illnesses don't bother me. Poverty doesn't bother me. My race doesn't bother me. What bothers me is ignorance and complacency. And there was quite a few of that. And it didn't matter if you're white, black, or Mexican, there's going to be some ignorance around there. And so you just stay away from it.
Mm. So at that time, do you think they were as social as today? Like
Who?
more the whites, or my bad. There wasn't as much racism, my bad. Or do you think they were
I think the
worse?
whites have always been very secure within themselves. Uh, I think the Mexicans. Okay, so my mother always told me that I had to marry a white man because my life would be better. And she always, for if I were to see her today, to this day, she would say, Mija, cásate con un bolillo. Te cuidan mejor que los mexicanos. And she really believes that. I don't.
Well, yeah, that is not true.
I know. But my mother really believed that.
So, and then into the 80s, how was it into the 80s? Or
What?
like the 80s, whenever you lived through it,
It's
was it
just
just the same thing as 70s, or just life
more
going on?
partying. I partied a lot. I was in my early 20s, I guess. And so I had fun. I mean, I worked, had fun, went a little bit to school, couldn't make it. Um, the disadvantage to being Hispanic is that the parents, and I find that today also, even in my time, they believe that a girl has to get married if they think she's having sex with a boy because that she's used property or damaged properties.
That is crazy.
No, there's a lot of people around here. It's not as much as back then, but a lot of people believe, oh, you have a kid, you can have to go get married.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and there's no reason for being pregnant, and you don't want to get pregnant. But if you're gonna get pregnant, you shouldn't have to get married because you're way too young. Because y'all made it's obvious by getting pregnant that you were too young, that you didn't know how to make the right decision. So that is one of the disadvantages that my mother gave me, and it wasn't even in the outside world, the Mexican, the black, or anything like that. Um, yeah,
So okay, now this is a way off topic question, but how was technology then?
there was
Or
none.
like,
There's a big computers. What you hold in your hand nowadays to do calculations were the size of a room.
did you ever come in contact with one at the very time, or like
Not
whenever they first introduced?
no. I think my first time I contacted a computer was in 1993. And I was the first, I guess, somewhat computer was a typewriter. Because it wasn't the ones that you punch one at a time real hard.
Yeah.
It was one that was electrical. So that was probably that was in high school. That was in high school, and that was in high school, and I was in the ninth grade. Yeah,
Did you,
76. Don't know why I remember that. It was a bicentennial year. So I lived through a bicentennial when the United
was
States
that?
turned 200 years old.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
We even made the United States made special quarters for that.
Did you ever get one?
Oh, I had 1,000 of them, and throughout the ages, I lost them. They would probably be worth a lot of money today. They were pretty cool.
So what about the Nokia phone? Do you know what the Nokia phone is? That
Yeah,
big
I was.
brick? Or
Yeah, I
like,
saw
yeah.
that in.
I'm sorry.
Oh, uh, what year does that leaf say? 85. So it was in pre-kinder. I think she was in the sixth grade. So 80.
She was a what grader?
She was 6 years old.
Oh.
So I think 6 years later, in 90, I saw the first Nokia phone. And it was huge, like the size of a brick. And a friend of mine had just got it for their car. And they had a little suitcase, a little case for it.
Hmm.
And they would have to take out a bunch of wires and then talk on it. And it'd be real heavy. And it was like $3 a minute to talk on
Jeez.
it. And not everybody had it, just like maybe out of a million, maybe 1,000 people had it.
Wow.
It was mostly the airline people and the cops that had that ability. But I thought it was pretty cool to see it. But when they told me how much he paid, I was like, never mind.
Um, so did you now do you think that or whenever you, back in 1980s and 1990s, did you think that the future was gonna be like this advanced,
So I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody else. The Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
I love that show. I used to watch it all the time. I believe that man is the most genius man on earth because he foresaw the future. Everything that went on that show is happening. The technology on that show, I'm just waiting for them to beam them up to another town, another universe. But we're traveling to Mars. We can tap ourselves or put an earphone on and talk to each other like nothing without, you can, the Bluetooth is kind of what they did by communication. And look at us, we're going to Mars. We're sending people to space. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And all the other technology, the TV, smart TVs. So it's really cool.
Yeah, now that you think about it, the Wi-Fi, do you find that Wi-Fi is crazy? Like how it just works, it's random
Well,
everywhere you
anybody that doesn't have Wi-Fi doesn't stand. Their life is harder than those that do have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what part I don't like. Some cities have where they have complimentary Wi-Fi everywhere for throughout the whole city. I think we should be that way in the valley.
Oh yeah, I think they should be like that the whole actually everywhere.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me interview you and
You're gonna get an F. No, I'm just kidding.
okay.
On my conversation.
All right, thank you very
Good luck,
much.
kiddo.